Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to see you all here. My name is Marta Jackowska-Uładizu, and together with my colleague Marta Kałużyńska, we'll be honored to moderate this session for you. We both work as a project coordinators for Center for Citizenship Education, which is the largest educational non-governmental organization in Poland. We work with 40,000 teachers and head teachers and in 10,000 schools in the whole country, and we operate for 28 years. But now, please join me to welcoming our prominent guests. And let's start from Letizia. Letizia is an environmental and land planning engineering student, originally from Sicily, but now studying in Milan. She's also an activist from Resilient Gap, and when she's not studying and when she's not involved in activism, she likes to play violin and running. Hello, Letizia.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Convergences and 1Planet4All for having me here.
Thank you. Let's go to Ania. So Anna Cudek is a PhD in biological science and a biology teacher in secondary school in Tychy in Poland. She's also an expert for Center for Citizenship Education. She's a mentor in our online courses and author of lessons plans and other education materials. And her hobby is horse riding.
Thank you.
And last but not least, here's Oma Shikarp with us, which is a young law graduate from Lagos in Nigeria, but it's also an experienced activist in sustainable development sector and an advocate for youth participation in achievement of SDGs. He's also a member of Youth Sustainable Development Network, and his hobbies are football and photography.
Thank you very much.
So, it's a big pleasure to have you here and learn from your first-hand experience. But we wouldn't be here if it's not about a project which is called 1Planet4All project. We have presentation here. The project is the European Union funded project, which started in 2020, which will finish quite soon in January 2023. The project is operated by 14 organizations in 12 European countries. And the aim of the project is the in-depth understanding and taking action by youth on climate change. Next slide, please. We do a lot of activities because the organization have different aim of experience, like education, advocacy, or humanitarian aid. So let me mention just a few of our activities. As you will see in another slide, we made some campaigns in social media. We prepared some camps, climate camps for youth. We publish materials about climate change for pupils and for teachers, for example. We make online course, climate theater, and much, much more. But today we want to focus on youth activism and how organization can support this young activist, because in the program we also sub-granted some youth and some youth organization. So we'll try to answer the question how organization can capitalize on youth, on what youth are already doing, but also how we can ensure the sustainability of this project. Now we will get to the questions to our panelists, and at the end there will be time for your questions also. So don't worry, there will be time for to ask everything what you would like to ask. So let me give the floor to my friend Marta.
Hello everyone, good afternoon.
Yeah, my name is Marta, and I'm looking forward to our discussion and to the thoughts of our panelists. We forgot to mention that English is not our first language, so please be considerate with us on that topic. Thank you very much. Let's start, let's begin. So before we get to the main issues of our debate, I would like to ask our panelists to get, I think it's good to get some bigger picture. So I would like to ask you guys to tell us more about what are you doing, what is your everyday work as an activist or as a teachers. But if you can put it into perspective, what challenges do you struggle? So maybe Anya, I would like to ask you first. So please give us this perspective from the educational sector. Okay, thank you.
Okay, at the beginning, I would like to thank you for this introducing, and I would like to thank you for inviting me to this conference. I am extremely grateful that I can be here and share my experience of working with young people and introducing the climate change, the climate education to my school. What I am doing? I have been a biology teacher for 10 years, and nearly for 10 years I have been carrying out the projects, especially coordinated by the Center for Citizenship for Education in my country, in Poland. My school complex number 1 in Tychy, it is a southern Poland, is a large secondary high school with nearly 700 students, aged between 15 to 19. This is located in medium-sized city where the effects of climate changes are mainly visible in form of recurring droughts, summer heat waves, and heavy rains. And my students recognize these problems. They know that they will be the first generation who will be the most confronted with these effects of climate changes. So they want to act for the climate, and I support them to do it. They take part in climate strikes. They coordinate with me Global Week Education at my schools, and willingly join to various projects. Challenge. As for challenges, I think that for me as a teacher, the greatest challenge is reliable education. I think that the most important is for me is teach my students how our world works, interest them in its problems, teach tolerance and openness to other views. And it is not easy task, but the great way to meet these challenges, to achieve these goals, is carrying out projects. And one of them you can see on the presentation. This is our last project, Global School Together for Climate. This is it was a third edition of 1Planet4All project directed to teachers in Polish schools. And in this edition, students could decide if they want to set up a school climate editorial office, or they prefer to take action for climate. And my students chose the first option, but finally they did both of them. And my students, my team decided that they focus on inter alia topic of unusual topic of impact of animal testing of cosmetics on climate change. Because they interested in such topics, so I agree for it, and they conducted researches among their parents, among teachers, and their friends about awareness of this topic. They looked for information in scientific studies and made a contact with animal protection activists and expert. And the effect of this project was article which was published on portals for young journalists, Young Face TV, and publishing in external media allows to reach lower number, higher number of recipients. And it was also extremely motivating for young people because they felt appreciated and took it as their big success. And on the end of the project, my students went to summary meeting in Warsaw, and the photos from this meeting you can see on the right part of the slide. And there they have opportunity to exchange their experience with other teams from all Poland. And it brought them a lot of ideas for new activities, because this meeting took part in unusual place, Jazdów Estate. Yes. Yes, Jazdów Estate, where it is an impressive place in center of Warsaw, where local activists show that it is possible to live in a more sustainable way in the center of big city. My students also organized other activities during the projects. One of them was exchange of clothes. They decided to organize this event because they have opportunity to participate in a webinar during the global school education when one activist talked about greenwashing and exchange of clothes. So I am summarizing. I am a biology teacher, first of all, but I also additionally try to introduce global education for my school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ania. Thank you for your insight from the Polish school and your work, which is focused on projects. And this perspective of the need of critical and in-depth education. So maybe I will now pass to Letizia, and so we have the opportunity to know better about your activities, what you do at the university, yes, and in Italy. So please, I will give you the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just a university student, but since I began university last year, I joined a group of students that seemed really talented, enthusiastic, and stimulating. And this group is called the Resilient Gap, and now I'm a member of this association. We have several projects, but our main goal is spreading the knowledge about climate changes. We tackle climate issues, environmental issues. In fact, as you just said, I study environmental and planning engineering, and we do that by going to schools or by organizing events more sophisticated for our peers, so university students, on more specific topics that aren't only I don't know, fast fashion, but also climate refugees or energy lobbying, so more specific sectors that, as we all know, contributes to climate change. But the thing I love most about my association is our job with the high school. We organize this game. It's a simulation of the COP from United Nations. COP is the Conference of Parts, when all the delegates from United Nations meets to address the climate change. And we do that with high school students. We divide them into groups, and each group represents either power, for example, United States, Russia, China, India, Europe, or a lobbying power like environmentalists or energy lobbying. And it's a role game, so they have to embody their nation or their role in any case, and they have to decide how much they want to contribute to the foundings for climate changing, how their level of emissions, of course with the goal of keeping the rising of temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius, as well as it prescribed by the Paris Agreement of 2015. But we don't do only that. We organize cleaning expeditions, so we pick an area, generally in Milan, because my university is in Milan, and we meet there and we clean those areas. Generally are big parks, and you would be surprised with what we found there, like old televisions that weighs really much, and we need the help of bigger organization, and that's what I will be soon talking about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think I forgot about the second leg of the question, so maybe if you can say a little bit about challenges in your activism.
Yeah, sure, thank you. Well, our challenges is, of course, finding new people to join our project, because the bigger we are, the better we can address climate change and spreading knowledge everywhere, and also fighting with bureaucracy for participating in several bigger events. And our main activity is organizing events in university. So, like everyday life in a life of an activist is pretty much it, and showing by our behavior that we firmly believe in certain values that are the values that we are host by this planet, and we need to keep it safe for us and for future generations.
Thank you very much, Letizia. I think we will talk about these issues more. Yeah, about the question, the case of involving people. So, Omashi, welcome. So, if you can elaborate a little more about what do you do, and what struggles do you face, and is from the perspective, from the African perspective. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question, and I'm very happy to be here. I am, first of all, a youth advocate, so a youth development advocate, and I work with different organizations to implement policies or projects across Africa and in Nigeria. Like Marta said, I'm from Nigeria, Lagos. So I belong to an organization called the Youth Sustainable Development Network. For those of you on Instagram, you can just quickly check us out at YSDC. So we are an organization that aims to impact youths across the world. We started in Nigeria, and we started back in 2018 but we had our first conference in 2019. So one of the first things that we realized is that as much as we all want to talk about climate change and global issues, we need to remember the fact that the younger generations should be brought along too. So basically, what we're trying to do now, we're trying to convince people that are already old and they are set in their ways, convince them of the importance of these challenges. Now, what we're trying to do is they're trying to bring it down to the children so they grow up knowing the importance and they don't need people to start convincing them and dragging them and trying to teach them the importance of these challenges. So we, in a way, we reach out to youths. We organize conferences for high schools, and just like what Letitia said, I don't know if I got the pronunciation right, Letitia. Okay, so we organize conferences for high schools and elementary schools, similar to what she said, simulation of the United Nations. So these conferences have different committees. They have WHO, UNESCO, and the rest. And basically this, but we tweaked it in a way because we used the design thinking methodology. So it made it very easy for these students to be able to contribute and learn from each other. So we had facilitators. I think I was a facilitator myself then. Now I just do more of the organization. So we had facilitators, and the job was basically to make these students learn from each other, learn the importance, and we were trying to take it out of the classroom normal education where the teacher just stands in your front and tells you what you need to know. We were trying to make the students think for themselves so it can have like a long-lasting impact. So we had facilitators, and we introduced the topic to them. This, by the way, there were different committees, so we based our committees on the different SDGs. So I facilitated renewable energy committee, and in my committee there were like, I think the oldest there was about 15. So you can understand how young these guys are and how willing they were to learn. So basically, I introduced the topic to them, and you just try to have icebreakers, like get them talking. What do you understand by climate change, clean energy? What do you know? Try to get what they know already. Then you try to push them sort of in the right direction, have them talking amongst themselves, have them having conversations. Before you know, you have debates amongst each other, and as facilitators, you try not to impose so much information or so much knowledge on them. Just you're trying to make them ask questions and try to get that interest that you want them to have in it. So at the end of the conference, the aim was to have them create like a roadmap or sort of on what they as individuals can do to contribute to the achievement of these goals. So they had two presentations. One was what they think the government can do. Obviously, at that level, they don't know so much about government relations and what can be done about that. But what we're after was what they as individuals can do. So there were suggestions like electricity saving. These are young kids saying that if you're not using the light bulb, always turn it off and things like that. So it was really impactful, and we've been having conferences similar to that. But now our major conference, our annual conference, which is the Youth Sustainable Development Conference every year, we sort of target youths in universities now, although we still have conferences for high schools, but we target youths in universities now across the world. So you can always check us out. I think the site is on the link to the website is on the Convergence's website. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Okay, thank you. When I listen to you, I think that you have a lot of experience, and I'm thinking, so how organization can capitalize of what youth are already doing? Because when I listen to you, I think that you are doing so many things, and you maybe don't need anything more to do it. So my question is maybe, let's start from Omashi now. How can an organization capitalize on what you are already doing, or how you can capitalize on what participants of your actions are doing?
Okay, I think I left out the challenges we face, so let me just very quickly answer that. Okay, so I think every organization has where they want to be and where they are at currently. So we have where we want to be and we have where we are right now. And let's just say the only thing standing between where we want to be and where we are right now is resources. Resources range from finances to exposure to influences and things like that. So these particular conferences like this are very good for us. Those are our challenges that we face currently. Now, in answering your question on how organizations can capitalize on what's already being done, I would just like to say that partnership, first of all, is like the only way that these goals can ever be achieved. I don't think we can go or do anything without partnership. So, and in trying to partner with people or partner with different organizations around the world, you have to recognize the fact that there are things already being done. So you don't really have to start from scratch if you're trying to impact youths in certain aspects. So organizations can just take advantage of the fact that they are active, they are local actors, basically. Local actors are there already, and you don't need to start from scratch. You can, what you can do, however, is you can increase the volume or the impact these local actors have on their community or on their environment. That way, you're making or you're getting more value for your investment because starting from scratch, you don't really know the environment, you don't know the locality. The best way to do it, or the best way to go about it for international organizations, is to find local actors, assess what they are doing, review what they're doing. If it aligns with your goals as the organization, all you can do is try to increase the volume of these actors by pushing in resources. So I think that's one way you can do it.
Okay, thank you. Leticia, what do you think about it? How can we capitalize on what you're doing?
Well, for starting, I totally agree with what she just said. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for bigger organizations supporting us. Let me thank you, Punto Sud, for letting me be here. And of course, well, young people are well known for being full of will, passion, and but sometimes we need someone to show us how to enway all this capacity or ambition we have. Well, organization help us doing this. Let's say we need to know the rules of the game, and when you organize events, the game is policy, and policy is a rather old game. So what we need is not like what first came to mind when you think about organization supporting youth, that is, or younger organization like mine, that is just give us money. Money is relative to all that. We need guidance, tools, especially knowledge, because when we have a goal and we track a way to reach this goal, we have to know what tools we need for it. And we know somebody who shows us how to use these tools. And these tools can be something really easy, like organizing an event with people you already know in your local city. Or could be bigger one, like using big platforms to spread a message and create lobbying power, because just with that, you can address more people. And we know that that is really important. Also, the EPCC last report showed us perfectly that we as consumers play a big role in the in the way that our planet is taking. So what we want to do as an organization is reaching more people we can. And that is impossible without a bigger organization supporting us. As Omachi just said, it really amplifies our impact. Now, I don't want to abuse of this word because I just followed a panel about impact washing, but that's really it, having a bigger impact so that what we can do is more valuable.
Thank you, but I heard many other words like knowledge and tools, which I think are close to Anya also, which have different backgrounds as a teacher. So how can organization capitalize on teachers or pupils at schools?
Yes, it's a very difficult question because I agree with other guests that from my point of view, teachers and schools usually need the support from organization. And in my school, I meet young people who are interested in global problems. They have ideas, they want to act, but they often need support from other, especially adult people, and because sometimes their knowledge is insufficient or superficial, sometimes they lack of tools or skills to taking action for climate. And of course I try to do it to help them to develop their ideas. But in my school, I also meet young people who are already active. Some of them are volunteers in organizations such as the Open Cages. Some of them take part in climate strikes, work for tolerance. And in my opinion, organization can support them and develop their activities to make them better and more effective. And also organization can use these activities to promote good practices and motivating others to taking action, not only for climate, but generally. And the organization CCE in Poland does it. They publishes valuable activations of young people in their social media, in their educational materials, shows them during the conferences and meetings, and it is extremely motivating for others, but also for these young people who are authors of these activities, because they feel appreciated, and everyone like and need to be appreciated.
Thank you. You mentioned the others, and this is what I wanted to ask, because we heard about people who are active already, pupils who are active, but what about those who are not active? How can organization reach these young people? What they can give? How can they attract them when they are not active? Leticia, maybe?
Well, yes, that's a good question for me, because also my association every year has to change. It changes the people, because after university they of course leave the association, and we need more people joining us. And sometimes we find ourselves just with people from my course, that is environmental engineering, because it's obvious, environmental engineering, you're interested about environmental topics. But every year we struggle with searching people who are not already active in this sector, just as you just said. So I think the best way is proposing a hands-on approach project. So something that gives a result, and you can see a result if you do this project. And with our organization and youth is the same thing. We as young people love to being challenged. So if you challenge us with something, especially when we can gain experience, because I think it's the most important thing for us. We really want to meet. if you talk to whoever, young people, young students, he wants to travel the world, meet a lot of people. So if there is a project who promotes all these things, it of course will be followed by many students, many young people.
Thank you. Who wants to add something? Omashi, Anya?
Okay, I'll just give a short story of how I got into the SDG sector. So I know a lot of people here are familiar with Model United Nations conferences. So these conferences, basically, I feel like they're very important because they introduce young people to the global scene, basically. You get to understand how everything works and the global issues that we're basically tackling. So back in 2018, I don't know who convinced me, but I signed up for my first UN conference, and I got to understand that there are some issues that a lot of youths may not be thinking so much about that are serious, and you definitely have to face it when you get older. So that sparked my interest, and since then I've been in the sustainable development area. And on the question of how to get more youths or more people that are not involved, I would say it all boils down to local actors, because it's one thing for you to be trying to reach youths or trying to recruit youths, and it's another thing for you not to be able to relate with the youths. So then you need people that can relate with these people to basically recruit them. So what part of what my organization does is we do workshops, trainings on different goals. We have climate workshops, climate change workshops. We have other workshops, basically. And how we try to get these people is we basically push the narrative that the youths are supposed to be in the center, or the youths are the driving force of these goals. So you make the youths feel important. You push, or you sell the narrative that without the youths we cannot achieve anything. So when you come across such an information that you are needed, and without you, basically the world may go to shit. So. Yeah, you may just want to know more about what this person is talking about, and maybe how you can help. So you have a lot of people start asking questions, and okay, what is this about? And then you do a lot of awareness. I feel like the first step you have to take in trying to recruit more youths into the sustainable development talk is awareness. It's still very painful that a lot of youths, I don't know about here, but a lot of youths in Nigeria are more, I would say, more concerned with other things. Obviously I cannot judge them because we're facing a lot of things. So, but I just feel like climate change and other goals are some things that everyone should put first in mind. So basically awareness, creation of awareness is the first thing you can do in trying to recruit more youths. Then after you tell them about it, then you make them know how important they are to the achievement of these goals. Then I feel like you see a lot more volunteers, or a lot more questions from youths wanting to know more, understand more, or wanting to participate in whatever you're doing that concerns the SDGs. So that's one way you can recruit youths.
Thank you. I heard something what I liked here, that you have to make young people understand or feel that they are important. So I wonder, how can it work in school, which is sometimes not a good place to make young people feel important. Anya?
Okay, well, in order to reach young people in schools, who have not been involved in climate action so far, I think that first of all, they need to be interested in these topics and convinced that it is worth doing something for climate. However, at schools, it is a bit so that first you need to interest the teachers. Because if teachers are interesting in this topic, he will interest and convince their students. And so organization can reach young people indirectly by reach teachers, and organizations such as CCE, my country, provide reliable reliable educational materials and offers big support for teachers. It includes lesson scenarios, exercises, webinars, articles, and many others. Organizations offers courses and trainings for teachers, and teachers acquire the knowledge and about not only climate change but also about environmental pollution, about tolerance, about critical thinking. And pass it on to their students. Bringing up important issues in lessons, teachers can interest young people to various global problems and engage them to taking action for global problems. And at this point, I would like to refer to our previous question and what I said earlier. I think that the great way to reach young people is to show activities undertaken by others, and it is very motivating for youth. So all meetings, conferences, webinars where young activists and other students, ordinary students for ordinary schools, also presents their activities are very important, and this is a real support for schools and teachers and young people.
Thank you. I hope also you will be an example for other teachers when they see you today on how can they reach their students in Polish schools, not only Polish schools, European schools in general.
Thanks for the answers as far, and thanks you audience that you are still with us. We are slowly reaching the final part, but let's get a little bit deeper to the, conclude this case of supporting what organizations can do. So I would like you to listen to your thoughts on how to ensure the sustainability of actions of the young people. And maybe I would like to ask Letizia first.
First of all, I wanted to say, I think Anya just told us something really relevant, that kids have to be entrusted about these topics. And I think that's the problem sometimes we have as young people. It's not difficult to find young people a bit hopeless about the future, because we hear so many problems that our planet is facing right now that sometimes we look at ourselves and think, okay, it's impossible to solve all of this. When we have big organizations behind us, supporting us, believing in us, listening to us, supporting us, we start believe we are worth it and we can make a difference. And that's, I think, to referring to the previous question, a big pros of organization supporting youth. Because if we know somebody believes in us to the point that they give us money to do our projects, well, we start believing that too. And to your, can you repeat your question now? Sorry, I just.
Yeah, of course. It was about the sustainability. So
Oh,
beyond
yes.
the, I mean, beyond the financing, yes, and beyond the time frames, scheduled time
Yes.
frames, how can we work on that, or how do you do it
Of course.
already?
Yeah, yeah. Well, for my association, our projects are never self-standing. They're not an end in itself. Because every time we finish the project, even once it's done, we have learned something because we got to know what worked and what didn't, so that for the next time, for our next project, we know how to manage it. And most of all, well, as I told before, it's not just funding. When with our organization, the chief of our organization, she asks us, how are you, what you are doing now, how is it everything going? We exchanges experience and ideas. So it's every time that we meet, it's growing our collaboration. So it's not just financing our projects, but it is letting us grow and let us gaining experience so that we can teach each other in the association itself how to do better in our context, in our university.
Okay, thank you, Leticia. So yeah, maybe the same question to Mashi.
Okay. The sustainability of
It was the the sustainability beyond the support and funding and.
okay. So sustainability of projects is is one thing that organizations must look out for, because it's not enough to support a project with initial funding, but you must make sure that this project is one that even without your funding, or even after you've left to go help other people, can stand on its own. So I feel like it's a criteria that projects must meet before they can be basically helped by these organizations. I'll give an example. In 2020, when we had our annual conference, with the help of the Panther Group, we were able to do an SDG case challenge, and owners of businesses basically came up with their pitches on how the grand prize was going to help their businesses, and one of the criteria was how sustainable is this going to be for you. And the grand prize was 5,000 US dollars. So the person, the project that won it eventually was a farmer, and he solarized his farm basically. So his farm now operates on solar energy, so he converted from fossil fuels to solar. So he was able to prove how the transition would help his farm and his project be sustainable. So the less money he spends on buying fuel, the more he can invest in more, buying maybe more seeds or more products to plants. So sustainability is a threshold that must be crossed before any project can, I feel like, before any project can be approved. So there are a lot of sustainability consultants, so businesses can always search for. I know it's difficult for some businesses to, especially startups, to think about how to do this. So there are some sustainability consultants that can handle these kind of questions and help the businesses navigate how to go about these particular issues. So that's one of the things we also do at YSDN. We try to consult or advise startups on how best they can go about their businesses in a very sustainable way. So that's it.
Thank you very much. So Anya, and how's the sustainability looks like in schools? How you can work on that?
It's also very important and difficult question, because sustainability of project is very important, but not also possible. And the projects such 1Planet4All, directed by schools, are unique because there are aimed at changing the attitudes and values of young people. And if anyone, whether young or old, is convinced that something is worth doing, he will do it. He will be doing also after the end of the support from external organization. And my students, after our last project, Global School Together for Climate, and summer meeting in Warsaw, have a lot ideas for new activities, but I don't know if they will be so motivated to continue the activity, the activations. Without internal motivation, it will not be possible to continue. I think that the very important is also perception by society. For example, our exchange of clothes in our school turned out to be a great ideas, and a lot of teachers and students took part in this event and involved in its organization. That my students decided to organize it also in this school years. I hope they will do it. Appreciation is very important, and is as important as self-motivation. And I try to trigger motivation in my students. I try to stay motivated. And I also try to be authentic in what I teach. I usually travel by train. I don't eat meat. I limit my shopping, and I try to create a global school and global community in my school every day, not only during the projects, but I try to create our school as friendly for environment and show it in every day. From my teaching point of view, I would like to clearly emphasize that for me the most significance is to change attitudes and values in my students. If thanks to the participation in projects, they introduce beneficial changes in their daily life. For me, it is maintaining of sustainability of projects. Not one has to be an activist. Sorry, but the most important is I want that they will be conscious citizens, responsible citizens in the future.
Go on.
I just want to add to what she said. She mentioned something about motivation, and I feel like that is one of the driving forces for sustainability. Because if there's no passion, if you're doing what you're doing for the money you want to get out of it, or maybe the level of exposure you want to get out of it, you may not go as far as you want to go because the passion is not there. So one of the main things to look out for is the passion of the organization or project or persons leading the projects. So that's a very, very big pillar when it comes to sustainability.
Thank you. Well, I think we also heard some few nice words about motivation and about changing attitudes. And I think all our activities as organizations or you as activists is all about changing attitudes, because climate education, global education, and climate activism, like it's just linked to changing attitudes. And we heard a lot of things on how organization can support this activism and how can capitalize on what youth are doing. And just now to let's make it a closing paragraph and imagine that we want to convince some organization to support you or us. So what would you add to the question why organizations should support young people in their activism? Maybe let's start with Anya.
Okay, they should. Thanks to the participation in projects and support from organization, my students are still motivated and gain new knowledge about various global problems. Thanks to participation in the projects, they also develop other skills, soft skills, cooperation, creativity, communication. So organization help our students, my students, to look for reliable reliable information, because it is important for me. My experience showed that young people often looking for information on the internet, and they are influenced by social media and news posted there, and sometimes they look for a lot of information. Some of them are not reliable, sometimes are contradictory. And organizations supports them and help them to organize this information and teach and teach how and where they can look for reliable and valuable information. Organization also supports teachers because organize courses and for them. The last edition of 1Planet was accompanied by very valuable courses, which support us and guided us through the successive steps in the project. So it's this allows this. The result, the projects are more structured and more effective. So I think that organization should support youth, students at schools, my school, at schools, but of course others too, because it allows to trigger motivation and develop their activities to make them better and soft skills.
Thank you. So I hope you convinced all organizations to support teachers in schools. And Letizia, what about supporting youth activism?
Yeah, there are a few things I'd like to add to this topic. As you can see, my association is called Resilient GAP. GAP stands for Global Action Project. This word, global, I read it also downstairs in few stands. It's fundamental for environmental topics, but also human rights that we've been talking about this day. It means think global act local. And that's what small organization like my university students group does. We act local in our city, or even in our university, that of course we can reach a few people. But with bigger organizations with more experience, if these organizations gather together, small one like Convergences did for this forum, and thanks for that, of course we create a net. And with this net, we really have power of changing things, of changing habits, or spreading a message. And it's not a coincidence that the last but not least goal of the 17th SDGs is partnerships. And that's what the organizations have to do. They have to put in contact different realities for different place. If it wasn't for organization, I would have never met Omachiyi from Nigeria. And before 1 month ago, I wouldn't believe that possible. But thanks to all the work that these people do, we became more effective. We are a small organization, and so do big organizations, so support us. And another thing is that we now as university students, but we'll soon be young workers. So you can also have benefits from us. We can join you as a big organization. And for once, I think we can create a cycle that's not to be broken, but fueled.
Wow, that's great what you said, and it's good you mentioned the 17th SDGs, the topic close to what Omachi is doing. So, Omachi, what you would add to this support for you and your organization?
Okay, let me just continue from where she stopped at the 17th goal, which is partnership. That's the most important goal, because without partnership, we can't really go anywhere. So I would say that conferences like this are first of all very important, because they give visibility to low-level organizations and local actors. So I'm sure without this conference, I'll not be here. I will not have met everyone I'm meeting here. And basically, we've been able to exchange ideas, and basically there's been a transfer of knowledge. So or exchange of knowledge. So, and that's very important for organizations. So, for local organizations, because you'll be able to learn from organizations maybe across the world and how they do things, and maybe add to what you're doing as well. So, conferences like this are very important. Now, for my organization, we have a lot of things, a lot of projects we're running, and it would also need visibility. And I forgot to mention this in the first question. In helping organizations, they do not just need finances, they also need influences. So let me elaborate on that. Influence in the sense that as a small organization, when you're trying to make an impact, not a lot of ears would turn to you, because, well, you're not doing so much already, and you don't have any major person behind you. But when you are working, and you say you're working in partnership with this organization, which happens to be an international organization, they tend to take you more seriously. So that opens more doors for you, and allows you to have like the impact you're looking to have. So yes, that's a way that you can help organizations like mine. And last but not the least, finances. So like I said earlier, to capitalize or build on what is already being done, it means that you're trying to increase the level of impact that is already being done. So across the world, there are a lot of local actors and local organizations trying to make impacts, but their impact is limited by the level of resources that they put into their project. So if you're trying to amplify this level of impact, you definitely would have to increase the level of resources that goes into the project. So that's another way you can help organizations like mine. So hope to connect more with anyone willing to partner. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, now it's the highest time to open the floor to audience. We are in very cameral audience, so you're welcome to add your comments or some questions to our panelists.
Okay, and yeah, and you can ask in French, of course, and then we will. But you, yeah, so maybe we will. Yeah, so okay, and we will take it one by one. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, and yeah, this is time for questions.
Thank you. I will try to do it in English, but as you, it's not my mother language, so apologize if I make a mistake. First of all, thank you for all the things you share with us. It's a shame there is not so much people in the room. It seems like they prefer to listen older people talking about money, but prefer to be here with you. Keep going what you are doing, because it's very important, and older people don't do enough, so you need to do more for them. I have a couple of questions for you to know how can we give the will to young people to get involved in planet preservation and act to reduce climate change. That means at the end having citizens aware of the environmental crisis. What should I do in my company to make younger workers to do the same thing than you, even if I understand you're not a worker yet. And also in my city, because I'm in the city council, so I want to know how can I give the will to young people to do exactly the same thing you are doing. The other question is how can I find young people who are already young activists in my city or around and make them invest more in my territory and maybe work with them or get more people involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, is any of you want to, Laetitia, maybe? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think it shouldn't be that difficult finding people involved in action for climate change, because, I mean, everybody here, we all share this planet and we don't have another. So everybody should be at least engaged to this topic and to involve more and more people. There's the thing that makes the climate change very difficult to address is the fact that it involves almost everything. It involves politics, economics, society. So the best way to solve this problem is to take them separately. Everyone here has different passions. So maybe there's one who's more involved in science, one more involved in, I don't know, trying to give everybody the human rights as the guys from the previous conferences today. And I think the best way is proposing projects that have the same big goal, that is addressing the environmental problems we are facing right now as humanity, but with this specificity, so that everyone with their passion can contribute. For example, when we organize events, there's a guy that comes, he doesn't study engineering, but he's a pianist. And when I first met him, he told me, I want to contribute to all of your events, but I don't know a thing about science behind it. So when he comes, he just do what he can and what he loves doing, and is playing the piano for us. And then we have discussion with the music and I don't know, sorry, with the music on the ground. So everybody with their passion can contribute. And how can you find these youth? Well, that's what I can refer to the third question, that was why organization can benefit from supporting young association or youth in general. You can address an association that already exists and support them, or you can go to university, high schools in general, because there is where the youth generally meets. But I think it would be easier to find a group that already exists and amplified it. And that's basically what we talked about during this conference.
Okay, I think I got like about 3 questions from everything you said. You said how we can reach youths across the world, and you said how you can get your workers into the sustainable development sector. Then you said how you can invest in your immediate environment. Is that okay? So for the first question, how to I'm sorry, how to what was the first question again?
First question, give them the will to do exactly the same as you.
Okay. I think it was in the second question when I addressed how to recruit youths, but it depends. I don't know how young your employees are, so I'll just be talking from my perspective. So I feel like the first thing you have to do is you have to understand them. So you cannot spark an interest in someone that you don't understand. So you have to understand them and understand their reasoning and how they perceive the world. And then you also have to make them feel important, like I said earlier. So you have to, because it's not enough to just tell them of the importance of these issues. You have to notify them of the importance of these issues and how they relate to it. So how they are also important to achieving these goals. So you can organize spaces. You can start by organizing spaces where people are free to air their opinions on issues like this. So you start with spaces, you get people talking, and when you've had enough spaces, exchange of ideas, and you start to understand each other, then you start seeing proposals for actions. So you start hearing people saying, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? So let's say after maybe you have like 4 spaces, and people are coming and sharing their opinions, and after some time people are like, why don't we do a beach cleanup today, or why don't we clean this place tomorrow? So that way you've effectively engaged your workers or the youths around you, and brought them into the sustainable sector. So now, after these activities, it's safe to say that these people they've sparked an interest in it, and whether you're there or not, anywhere they are, they will understand that, okay, these issues are happening whether we like it or not. So it's your choice, which is like a one-way choice. Basically, is you have to get into it. So you basically have to start small. Get them talking, spaces, and make them feel important, then start seeing how they can take action. I don't know if that answers the question.
And I would like to add something, not as a moderator, but as a Center for Citizenship Education worker for the City Council, because often, I don't know in France, but in Poland, we often got some questions from City Council how they can support, what can they do about climate change or some ecological issue. So I would say you can support education, and I'm sure ACTED or Convergence, the organization which are here present, and many other French organizations work in schools with global and climate education. And like I said, I don't know in France, but in Poland, the city council might finance the programs for schools, which will show young people how to act for climate. So maybe you can also do it. Thank you.
Okay, we have another question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for what you have been doing and saying. I'm just a little bit afraid and concerned about one thing. When you say, Laetitia, that everything should be concerned, right? You say everything should be concerned because we only have one planet, so everybody should be concerned. Well, everybody knows that tobacco is bad. How do you think that everybody quit smoking?
You know,
Not, and you can put all the pictures of disgusting thing on your cigarette packs that will never stop people from smoking, right? So the question is, you're right, and you put all together, you put all the elements, right? Yeah, awareness, make sure that people are aware, convince the teachers first. That's a good point, by the way. Although teachers are, I don't know any system where teachers are really paid to convince people, but that's another question. The problem is, at some point, it's, of course, it's important to provide people with information, with data. It's very important to start small, as you said, right? To provide people with small possibilities to act. It's very important to have the ingredient of confidence. Show people that they can do it, okay? It's doable, it's feasible, there is an impact, it's useful. All those points are very important. Maybe you could add, or maybe you do, at some one point, right, that it's fun, right? And brains is not enough. You have to tie together brain, heart, guts, and show people that they can do something useful, important, and fun, right? And look, tonight we have a nice evening offered by Acted, but on the invitation they say free drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, right? Well, if you want to bring people together, even to do something useful and interesting, you had to put something about fun, right? This is my advice.
Really? What? Yeah. Really, thanks for this intervention. The smoking part was fun because today at breakfast we were discussing it because Omar, she mentioned, like, he told me, but in French everybody's smoking. and and they said, like, I really don't understand it. Like, how is it possible? Like, we've been taught since we was born this thing, and yeah. That's why I said those things before about everybody with their passion, because I know friends of mine, that when I told them, yeah, I'm going with Resilient to do this cleaning expedition, they told me, yeah, okay, if you have this time to spend doing those stuff, bye. But I know these friends of mine are also really into economics, and they are concerned about the rising prices for carbons and fossil fuels. And I know that when I touch that topic, they are more interested. And that's, I mean, this is the worst part of climate change because it involves everything, and that's hard. But it also permits everybody to be committed to it, at least in their specific topic. And related to the fun part, you are perfectly right. I didn't mention it, but when we organize events, we often do a drinking part after. Like, okay, after that, we all meet there and have fun together. And I think that's really important. Also, with our project with kids, that I understood all of us do some project with kids. Of course, Anya, you are the most experienced in this field, but like the joy in their eyes after we do those games together, their will, their force, their passion, this is really stimulating also for us, because they see there's something feasible and doable, and that's really important because it thrillers motivation, and with motivation you are prone keeping on with your project. So thank you, that was really interesting.
Do you want to add something? Yeah, no, okay, so, please, go on.
Thank you very much. I will ask my question in French, if it's okay for you.
You've mentioned a lot young people that are studying, that are doing some kind of training. What about young people that have no training, no education, no job? We know that in quite a lot of countries, in particular in developing countries, that can be quite a big part of the population of young people. So have you thought about the way you can get those people involved on this kind of topic, knowing that maybe they've got other things to worry about, of social insertion and so on. So how can we get those people involved as well when they don't have education or they are not part of the education system?
Okay, thank you very much for that question, and it brings to light the truth actually that a lot of people are not so educated enough to understand the importance if you are trying to convince them. Now, I think I had a good discussion with someone I met today, and he said he works with Africa. He works for a big development country in Africa, and they usually have some issues with the local population, and when they do certain activities, and like I said to him, like I said earlier, it's very important to work with local actors because these are the people that understand the environment. They're people that know how to communicate with the inhabitants of this environment. So the beautiful thing about climate change is that whether or not you're educated, you would be able to see the results or the effects of climate change. So whether you're a farmer, you'll be able to tell that the dry season is becoming longer and maybe your farm products are no longer as much as they used to be, the volume is getting reduced, or maybe it's raining longer or something like that, or the animals in the forest are slowly disappearing. So one way you can reach out to people that do not have formal education is by trying to break it down to their reality, what they can see. So if I'm trying to convince someone that has not had like a formal education, the first now try to let the person know, or first now tell the person about this. I'll ask the person, have you experienced things like flooding? Do you know it happens, erosions, landslides, things like that? And surely the person would have at least experienced or heard of it. And it's becoming reoccurrent, it's becoming more and more present. And you actually start asking the person questions. I feel like if you're just trying to talk to them and tell them what's going on, it doesn't really create the impact you're looking for. So you have to spark it inside them by asking them questions. They answer these questions themselves, then they realize, okay, this is important. And so you start asking them questions like that, and they start understanding better what you're talking about. They probably would not have understood what you said earlier when you were speaking your big grammar and everything. But now that you're talking about what they can see, what they know is happening, now they can understand you. And one thing I also said earlier, or I told the friend I was speaking with earlier, is that local people understand the environment. They understand the environment. They know the environment better than we, the educated people. So they are closer to the environment. They know more about it than we do. They can tell when something is off. They can tell when something is wrong. So you wouldn't have to go too far trying to explain to them that this is happening. They know already. So you just have to link what you understand in the formal education to what they understand in their local education and bring it together so that you guys can establish a communication line. So that's one way you can reach out to people without formal education. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, I think we have to, our time is up. So, of course, you can reach us after the panel. We will be here for other questions or the offers for support, or let's say collaboration. So I would like to thank you all, thank our panelists for, it was really great opportunity to hear your first-hand experience and for your perspective as a young adults. Thank you very much for your time, for your and thanks to all of you. I think thanks for your active participation, and that the comments from you helped summarize some of the main issues we wanted to convey. So thank you very much, and see you later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.